Why, hello everybody, welcome, my name is Rubydung, welcome to today's episode. As you can see, today's episode is episode 150. So, as per a custom of what I've been doing in my series for a while now, back during episode, I guess it was 45, not 50 when I last gave a world tour, and episode 100, I both gave world tours, so for episode 150 today, I feel it is only appropriate to do another world tour. So, I've done about 50 episodes of changes in this world, so I feel that is probably an appropriate amount that I can begin giving something like that. But I'm not going to be starting the world tour from all the way up here. I need to get all the way down to the entrance to give this tour nice and proper. So the first place that we probably want to start with the tour here is probably going to be my first base, which actually isn't this, it is that over there. This little dinky shack that I have out in the water here, this is my first base. Built this in the first episode, basically just for me to hide away from the night because there was no lighting whatsoever. And this is how I entertained myself for about the 10 minutes or whatever that it was night. So, this is my first ever base. But, very quickly after that, I began construction, only about 10 episodes later or whatever, I began construction on this. This is Base Alpha, as I like to refer to it. I think I'll just call this main base. There's a bunch of different names I go by. None of them are consistent. But one thing is consistent. This is the base that I primarily spend my time. This is what's by far the most developed. So this is what I often use whenever you see one of my episodes. As you can see, if I do a little look around, as of recent, I got a full beacon network going around here. Meaning that no matter where I am in the base, I'll always have speed 2. So, as I run around this whole base, you'll be able to see that I'm going to do it very quickly due to my speed 2, which is a massive difference from all my other world tours. My first one was in beta 1.7, if I remember correctly, so I didn't even have sprint. In my last one, I didn't have the speed, so every world tour is going to get faster, I'm guessing. I don't know how on earth I could possibly increase for the next one. Speed 2 is like the fastest I could possibly do this. But regardless, before I begin that, I do want to talk about little few things that are around the base. For example, the beacons. I also have a large torch grid that is spanning almost the entire length of the base, like basically the whole render. And there's only one other thing of note that I have around here that isn't a part of the base itself. This is my anniversary cannon. So if I go all the way over here to look at this, this is my anniversary cannon. So this was I made right before fireworks were added. And basically what I do here is I fill around this lily pad with TNT, put one piece of TNT on the lily pad, fill this up with arrows, then when I click this button, all this TNT will light, then an arrow will fire from this dispenser onto this TNT, lighting it. It will fall down, it will launch everything up, and then explode in the air along with the fire arrows. So, that is my cannon that I ignite for whenever there is a celebration. But, once again, that was for an anniversary, but technically I have another anniversary that is not that far away. It's still quite a ways, though, so I'm not even going to pretend like that's happening anytime soon. But regardless, coming around here, I think it's about time to show off the main base. Actually, no, there is one other thing that's outside the base I should show. It's very small, but I do feel it is necessary to show. If I come all the way around here, this is what I like to refer to as the Wall of Ances, which is basically whenever I have a math-focused episode, this is the board that I often spend at, in which case I explain how I'm going to do very particular parts of basically my project, what I plan on doing for it for the future, and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, this is just basically a chest of resources. And this was a diagram I created. So basically, if I'm ever doing a episode where I'm purely trying to talk about the theoreticals of a major project, it's probably going to be quite heavily centered here. But now I think it's about time that I can begin showing off the base itself, in which case I want to come all the way around here, and this little dock path here, spinning across the water, is for the main base. If I come up here, you can see that I did elevate this base. That is simply just because I wanted to do that. And also, I will be interfering with as little of the terrain here as possible. I didn't really do that on purpose, but now I'm trying to make sure of it. Because this is old terrain. This is alpha terrain. So I actually quite like that I have disturbed very little of the terrain here. So I'm very happy with how I wound up basically treating this base as elevation. I'm probably not ever expanding in that direction because of all the mountains that way, and I'm expanding a lot more that direction because there's a lot more water that way. So when I come all the way up here through the main base, you can see I have a large R above it. That is for Rubydung, as you probably were able to guess, in which case I come into the main room here. Now, there's a few different directions I can go. First off, I am going off in this direction and walking over to this. It's a bed. I can sit at the bed because it's night, in which case I'm going to do that. But more importantly, besides the bed's just a temporary solution that has become functionally permanent because it's been there since the beds were added. I have in this area a large, well, not that large, but a adequate size storage room that goes around the full length of this first floor. So if I do some looking around, you can see that I have a lot of chests in this area. So, as you might be able to tell by the actual storage, I have a block and, well, 2 blocks. One is to designate what each of the chests are containing. So, for example, I have a gold block here. That means if I were to go down here, I have a chest filled with valuables, while I have a note block here. That means, because when I first built this, there was only really a handful of blocks that were used to make redstone. I have my redstone down here. Honestly, looking at this is actually quite interesting, because I haven't really thought about this till just now, but the only real block that I had back then to designate redstone was something like note blocks, because redstone blocks definitely weren't back then. And even things like repeaters were very, not then, because repeaters would still have a little ways to go. And, yeah, this was really the only block that used redstone back then that I could use, so that's basically what I've been using for that designation. But, also, you can see I have gravel here, there's gravel, dirt there, you can start here. I believe my bricks is basically miscellaneous, yeah, and then there should be a sand block there. Why is the sand missing? I'm guessing I'm fixing that. There we go. But, as you can see, if I go to full length around the space, I have chests for all of that. So, that is what's kept in the storage. For items, though, I try to designate it with colored wool and try to find the closest color that I feel is accurate to that. So, for example, I have gray here. That is designating that I have both string and arrows, while I have dark gray here. That means I have mainly gunpowder, I think that's designating, opposed to the bones. Then up here, that is brown, I think it's for rotten flesh. Nope, okay, I guess this is a little outdated, because white, yeah, so the white was for the feathers, so the white was feathers down here. I don't know what the gray was for, because Nether Portals weren't out back then, obviously none of this stuff was out. Maybe it was for the slime? I think we used lime green for the slime, though. Why did I use brown there? I'm sure I explained it in one of the older episodes, but I can't remember for the life of me. But, if I were to continue forward between these two things, we get into the mob system. So this is the first ever project that I made in this world. Technically second. It depends on what you qualify as first. I was working on it first, but it was like the second or third completed project, maybe even fourth. It would take a while until I completed this project, but this is the original mob grinder that I have had since the original days back in beta, I think is when I finished it. So, but I have changed it around a little bit. For one, I now have the whole system. It used to come through these water streams and drop the items on the floor. They added hoppers not too long ago, so I have all the resources picked up by hoppers. Ooh, this chest is almost full. I need to empty it out. But yeah, so as mobs come through, they die, have the drops come through, they pick them up with hoppers, and then just put them in these chests, opposed to the water streams picking them up down here. Another thing, also as you can see, I have overflow, so I just kind of shove stuff in here. But I also have, this is probably one of the dumbest projects I have in my world, is a furnace minecart. I want to grab a piece of coal to show this off. This is a very old thing I have in my world, in which case I was wanting a little bit of more motion in the base. Everything's just kind of static, and the only way that I could have done that back in the day is if I take a piece of coal and put it in the furnace minecart and stand back here. The furnace minecart would just go around the base as I kind of just sit here. And I was wanting to treat it as maybe that furnace minecart would be pushing another minecart around. And if I wanted to get to a certain part of the base, because we were so slow back then, the furnace minecart just so happened to be at the right place. I could click on the minecart it was pushing and then take a little journey around the whole base. But that kind of fell through. Once again, powered rails were added a little bit after I added that, so the actual furnace minecart didn't really do that much in the end, but I like to show it off. It's a fun little project that I made a long time ago, and I still like it. And it also takes a while to get over here. Oh wait, the rails are broken, so it's not coming back. Because, yeah, oh boy. Wow, that project is really broken. Oh man. But yeah, moving around this side of the base, we get to another division, which we'll go in the clockwise manner, in which case we get an elevator this direction and a tunnel this way. I'm going to go down the tunnel this way, and we get a little sign with saplings. If we head this direction, we get two on this side. Once again, for a long time, I've been intending to put something in this room here, but just haven't thought of a thing to put in. I, once again, asked my comments a long time ago, and was like, oh, what should I use this room for? And I just never got a good answer. So, I just haven't used that room for anything. I still want to put something there, though, which makes me really sad. But coming up here, you can see that this is my tree farm. What the design here is, I just go along these paths, chop down each of the trees, then come back in this elevator, go up to the next floor, and then chop down the trees on this floor. And, because, well, just statistically, as the leaves decay from me chopping all the wood, they will fall down below into the water, and then wash over to the main tunnel there, and I will get more saplings than I use to replant this area, just because of how the odds of leaf decay work. There's a little bit of waste of them falling on these rails on the side, but statistically these leaves on this side will always drop more than the leaves in the middle, so I will be always able to replenish this farm just by the leaves on the sides. In which case, that is only my first tree farm. This is probably the second project out of my world. This is a really old one, followed by this project, which is a lot newer comparative. This used to be a birch farm, but I've since converted it over to oak as well. The reason being I had it as birch was I simply could turn birch into wooden planks, because there wasn't colored wood back then. And I was needing a lot of wooden planks in order to do my base, so I just did birch for that, because birch technically yielded more than oak. So I just did that, but as time went on, they eventually added colored planks, and I was like, well, I'm still keeping it as birch, because I could turn the planks into, the birch planks into wooden slabs, because they only added the wood variation in the planks, not in the slabs or stairs. So I just turned them into slabs, and then built a lot of my base out of wooden slabs. So in the event you're curious as to why I'm mining a certain part of my base, as you can see I'm dropping slabs, that's why, because I was having to use wooden slabs to build it. So that is that tree farm. Then if I head off in this direction, we get to another expansion area. There's a chicken over there. I'm going to kill it because you're in the way. Well, not in the way, but still. You let all that stuff despawn. If I come around this area, we get to the chicken farm, which is constantly filled with eggs in an absolutely annoying manner. I have hoppers here that I recently added, not that many long ago, to collect eggs. This is in order to fuel my pumpkin pie. Because if you notice, I use pumpkin pie primarily for this world, and these eggs here are basically to do that. Now, before hoppers were added, I would come over to this side area here, and I would basically collect all the eggs that fell down. Then I would come over here, and then fire eggs up, into this area, this was basically to have them chickens fall down to this water stream. They would flow down here and fall into this area here, and I could place down a lava bucket and cook them, and then they would automatically drop cooked chicken. So that was the idea with this area, is that I could use chicken as my main fuel source. But it just... Why did you come off this side? Maybe the water streams are messed up. I'll probably have to fix that later. And, okay. You survived 2 swings, so you live. So if I come down this direction past the chicken farm, we'd reach a divide. In which case, I want to show you guys this end of the divide first. This is my vault. So if I push this button here and go through here, you can see that there is soul stand with water above it, with cobwebs above it. This is the slowest way, well, the way I can slow down the player the most, just with blocks, without my player needing to do anything, or needing to put anything on the player, because theoretically I could slow them more if I had a slowness potion here, or I could slow them down more if they decided to block with a sword or something. But I decided to do this. This is simply to discourage anyone from entering my vault. This is my true valuables. The most valuable things I have in this world are contained within this area. So this vault here is with a secret button to enter an area, then to slow the person down, so that when they get to this area, we at least have time to react to them doing this. This is a single player world, so it doesn't matter. But opening up this chest, we get my most secretive, protected blocks in the entire base. In which case, first off, it's the dragon egg. There's only one in the world. I keep it in here simply because it makes sense. There's one in the world. Technically, every world should have one of these, but this is the one in my world. The others here are a lot more important. Another one I really love is my Fortune 3 Silk Touch 1 Pickaxe. This is the first ever pickaxe I enchanted in this world, and I got Fortune 3 Silk Touch 1. I was very surprised by this. This is back when enchanting was first added. This is within the first week of enchanting being added. And it didn't work perfectly, unsurprisingly. Enchanting was slightly bugged. And I just so happened to luck into getting a Fortune 3 Silk Touch 1 pickaxe, which I didn't even know was possible. And since then, I've been keeping it in this chest just here, because it is impossible to get Fortune 3 Silk Touch 1 in a survival world without cheating. But I didn't cheat and got it legitimately. So that's how I got this. And then the other 4 blocks, as you can see, have the classic purple and black missing textures. This is locked chests. Each of these are locked chests. This was added back during the April Fool's update. This is the first ever one, in which case Notch added locked chests that were basically loot chests. It was a giant Team Fortress 2 reference. I thought it was really cool. But that's basically what those were. You would click on them and it would take you to an external website. You could buy all these dumb microtransaction things that weren't real. You couldn't actually buy any of them. But that is what's contained within this world, because you can't get them anymore. Heck, if I were to place them down, I believe they'd disappear. So I have to keep them in my chest. I can't even place them in this world without risking them vanishing forever. So that is what I have there. Come out back through this end of the vault. I probably want to sleep again, but down that end of the tunnel is probably the smallest expansion I've had to the base. I guess this whole area is an expansion as well, but if I come around this side, we get to a nice little divided path. I hear a zombie somewhere. Oh, he's over there. Cool. We get to a nice little divided path. Nothing goes out this area. I honestly probably should just close it off, but coming around this side, we get to my cocoa bean farm. In which case, what I do is if I click this button, then wait a few seconds and look in, you can see the water is coming through and throwing off all the cocoa from the ends of the actual logs. Then they all filter out here, in which case then I kill a chicken, because chickens love escaping the chicken farm. Then all I simply do is just sit here and wait. I'm going to click this button again, because in reality what I'm going to be doing when I come through here, when the water goes away, is just replanting all the cocoa, so it doesn't really need to flow, because I'm going to be doing this regardless, so it doesn't really change anything. But this is a little cocoa bean farm for in the event I ever need cocoa. I haven't really used it that much, but I will one day, I'm sure. Then coming back to the main area here, this is off by the bed. If you remember correctly, we had a little divide going to the tree farm and the tunnel up. Once again, we'll get back to that later. We are going around this area, continuing in a clockwise manner. There is a expansion down this area, but I'm going to keep to this side of the base because that is the largest expansion. And I'm going to go this way, in which case we get a little tunnel. We have it filled with wooden slabs. If you look at the ID here, you can see it is 44-2. That means 44-2, for any of those who are curious, means that they are stone slab variants. So these are actually non-burnable wooden slabs. So, but you also have to use a pick for them. So in case you're curious what those are, you cannot craft them anymore, but I have a whole bunch in this world because I was using birch to make them to have on parts of the space. So I just have a couple that are sitting around unused. I probably should use them to fill out this area because I don't think this is that well lit. But I have some rails, a fence, and a containment for this one villager here. Because if I open him up, you can see he trades me diamond pickaxes. Go a little bit further. You can see he also trades me diamond boots and a diamond axe. This dude trades me 3 diamonds. Each of them actually really important to me. Diamond axes are really good because I use a lot of axes on the tree farm. A lot. I use pickaxes constantly. Pickaxe is probably my most used tool by far. And boots because I have to enchant a lot of boots because I always hope to get feather falling. I haven't done the boot trade in a long time simply because I'm low on emeralds constantly. But that villager is very important for basically me being able to get diamond tools without ever spending diamonds. So that's my hope there. I also have this dirt box here. This is not a permanent thing. I just kind of have it because whenever I need to AFK in this world, I just want to be safe, and I've built this dirt box to remain safe, and it honestly is not important, so I'm just showing it off for no real reason. So if I come over here, we now have a nice little divide. If I go over to this area, we see a switch called Auto or XP. This is for the mob farm. Right now it's on auto. That means the mobs drown, and their mobs drops go over to that area over there, in which case I can pick them up. If I swap that over to XP, you can hear a whole bunch of noise, and you also heard the drowning stop. That means that a mob is flowing up the system all the way up, and it's going to drop down here, in which case the first guy will probably die because, yep, oh, he's holding string. The first guy will probably die because he was probably about to die from drowning. But as they flow into this area, I can sit here and punch them. I do have to be a little bit closer. And then collect XP through this manner. Like that. And I'm going to swap it back to auto because I don't want to sit here punching mobs all day. So if I wanted to get XP, I can sit here and punch these dudes in order to get it. So that is a possible option to get a bunch of XP. I just want to kill this last zombie off here because I don't want a zombie just sitting here flooding out my system. So there we go. There's another one. I don't care. If I come over this direction, we see what is maybe the first or second project in this world. This is the Sugarcane Farm. So what it is, I was meant to go through here and then I could punch out each of the sugarcane. As you can see, Endermen have ruined this area a little bit because there's no water. They're just kind of freestanding here. But as I look around here, this basically was the initial intention. I could come through here and punch out sugarcane whenever I wanted. But ever since then, pistons were added, meaning that I can now use pistons, as in here up above, in order to harvest the sugarcane for me. And hoppers were also added, meaning I could auto-collect it, in which case it all just gathers up in this chest because I don't use that much sugarcane. I don't have a good villager to trade it to, even though I did, but they were gone, so I never got that again. But if I were to also come down this area, we see a massive expanded area that goes to nothing. It does go to something whenever I get to upper layers of the base, but that is for a little bit later. But that's the only expansion area there, in which case I'll get to here in a second. But I want to wind all the way back to the largest expansion area. Before I also do that, I do want to talk about these chests, because this, as you may notice, this is the only little gap that has something up above it. Like, let me show for an example. The mob grinder has nothing there, but this does. That is because this is iron from the iron farm. So these chests here are where all my iron from the iron farm wind up, so I can easily access them. So this is often where I'm having to AFK. Sometimes I'm having to AFK one of the other farms, but often it's for iron, because I need a ton of iron. Coming down here through this expansion area, opposite side of the villager, we get to a very interesting thing. First off, another elevator, but we get this weird glass contraption you're looking at. That is what used to be the passive mob farm that has since been completely defunct. So that is no longer operational. Passive mobs now need to be bred. They no longer just passively spawn. So I no longer use this. I've actually, matter of fact, have destroyed it a little bit in order to create this elevator, but that is what this little glass contraption is, and I just haven't gotten rid of it because I like explaining that passive mobs used to be farmed here, but they no longer are. Heading over this area, we also see a wheat farm. So this is my initial design for a wheat farm. It's been basically unchanged since I first built it. In which case, what you do is you go all the way up here, you place down a bucket of water, the water gets divided among these 6 little spouts, and will wash all the way down into that water stream down here, which will collect all the way right here. So that is what the wheat farm does. It takes a long time to harvest and replant. Well, the harvesting not that, but the replanting is an absolute annoyance. Hence why you see it's fully grown, because I can't be bothered to actually harvest wheat that often. But coming around this area, I do want to pull out my dirt so that I can show off. This is another one of my really old projects. Let me, I didn't want to put my bed down there. I wanted to eat. Put that back. But if I were to come up here, you can see this is my mushroom farm. As you can see, as you probably can guess, I don't ever use it because back when I first made this used to be beta days. This is before there was a hunger bar. And what you did with food is you would use it to replenish your health. And food, most importantly, the reason why I have this is food didn't stack. So if I ever wanted to, for some reason, heal, I could either choose to die or I could choose to use food. Well, I built this because I didn't want to just constantly be dying. There really wasn't an incentive to live back then because there wasn't XP, but it was still annoying to die. So what I would do is I made this massive farm so I could have mushrooms, because back in the day, the 2 food sources that were really good were mushrooms and wheat, which were mushroom stew and bread, because it was the only possible thing that you could craft, like the only food you could craft, meaning you could stack it. Most importantly, you could have a single bowl, 1 stack of red mushrooms, 1 stack of brown mushrooms, and you would have a stack of food in your inventory. It took up 3 slots, but it was a stack of food, which was important. Then there was bread, which you needed 3 wheat, once again, another 3 slots. So that is kind of what was happening with this, but I've since torn it down because to turn this area into an intersection. I did that because mushroom soup is bad now. It doesn't stack, so there's no real reason to ever use mushroom stew, so that just kind of remains unused. But when I was making this, I left a large hollow cavity underneath it, so that way I could, well, I didn't intend it as expansion, but I wound up turning it into an expansion intersection, so that way I can go to different areas. So let's go off this area to start with, in which case we get to where I started off today's episode at the top of my pumpkin and melon farm. It basically is these large, like, towers that just are endlessly harvesting pumpkins and melons. Nothing really that impressive, but I get a lot of that from there, so that is down that side. While on the opposite side, we get an old Defunct project. This is the old Defunct Cowl farm. So, what I would have to do here is I would get cows into that little water block there. They would bob up and down, and I would breed them. And as I was breeding them, how mob cramming used to work is that as they were crammed up there, whenever I would come around here and pull this block down, cows would shoot out to equalize themselves over these 3 blocks space. Now what I could do is push this block up, and the cows would 50-50 divide between this block, so there would be a bunch of cows here, and a bunch of cows here, and there used to be another water stream here, but I have since gotten rid of it. They're in multiple designs. So what would happen is there would be a bunch of cows here. Then I would, with that above that sign, put down a lava block. It would burn the cows, and all the drops would flow down to here. I've since gotten rid of that, so that way I could stand at the top around this side. Let me go up here. So this is where I bred the cows, and this is where I would burn them. But after a little while, I began using looting to kill them, so that way I could get more of the drops, because I really wasn't eating the steak. I was just kind of collecting it, so I was mainly doing that for the leather. But I've since gotten rid of that because I've came up with a better design ever since then, in which case would be led down through this area, in which case there is a couple of different areas to go. This one is an expansion to nothing. One day I'll add something this way, but I haven't done it yet. This here is a gold farm. I've recently emptied out the chest, as you can see, so there's nothing really here. So up there is where I'm going to explain the gold farm, but this is the killing system for it, in which case they just simply drop down, and they suffocate in the water here, and their gold and rotten flesh drop into this chest. Now, going along, as you can see here, comes up, goes up that water, and then it will just drown. Down this area, we see my dual-purpose passive mob farm, what remains of it. So there's the chicken one. This is where the sheep and the cows remain. So sheep, I simply come along here and I shear them. As I hop along this area, their drops will fall at their feet, and whenever I want to pick it up, I just step in between them and will pick up all of the wool pieces. Then I later add an expansion for the cows, in which case what happens here is I redesigned this farm after they redid how baby cows work. Previously, there was no difference in hitboxes to a baby and its parent. So I had to be a little bit janky about how I did it, but now a baby cow is less than 1 block tall, or equal to, while a regular cow is above that. So what I've been doing here is I've just been breeding cows. Then, whenever I want this farm to be operational, I'll break this dirt and place down a glass block here. They will flow over to this area. Then a baby cow will be standing on this trapdoor, because they're less than a block tall. And whenever they grow up, they will go into that lava there. The lava is down flowing. As you can see by its being 2 blocks, it's flowing down, so the animal will not swim up it. They will get into the lava and be stuck to this trapdoor, and when they die, their drops will fall at their feet, and I will pick up their leather and cooked beef. The only difference here is I need to be a little bit better with this farm, because I'm very bad about continuously using it, so I need to be a little bit nicer about it. So that is the new and designed Cowl farm. Coming down this direction, this is the last area of this part of the expansion. Going all the way down the length of this bridge, we get to a weird kind of area. So there's a water stream and then a path divided in half. I'm going to show you up here. This is my trading hall. So this is where all of my villagers are that I can talk to in order to get emeralds. So, for example, if I want to talk to this guy, if I want to give him some wheat and get some emeralds, I could do that. I want to talk to this guy, I want to buy some redstone, talk to this guy, I want to sell some gold. As you can tell, I do this trade quite often by there being an arrow here. Then there's this dude, which is useless. I fell down when I wasn't wanting to. But if I come over here, I sometimes get a useless villager. As you can see by this thing, I can trade gravel and an emerald to get flint. I have way more flint than I am willing to admit in this world. So I don't want this guy. Well, what happens when I don't want this guy? Well, I pull that lever, and then the villager will begin suffocating. Now you might be sitting here wondering, like, why are you doing this? Well, first off, the first stage is to kill the villager. Once the villager dies, that light turns off. And I just want to pull that lever whenever I'm good again. So whenever that light turns off, that signifies the system below now has an empty slot. An empty slot means that whenever this contraption here determines if there's an empty slot, a villager will now be replaced into that system. This is done by a combination of fence gates and water streams, by inserting water streams and a fence gate to allow a villager to flow through the system and come up here. If I don't want them to, and the system is full, dropping down here, they will go into the rejection area. In which case, basically, if my system's full, they'll flow down and be forced to stand on this cactus until they die. So that's what basically happens when my system overflows. So I can basically just keep trading with villagers, and once they stop being of use, or they just weren't of use in the first place, I can just kill them off. This system needs to be cleaned more recently, but I just haven't done that, so that's probably going to be typically something I do between episodes. It's about to say I'm about to do it, but no, I'm in the middle of a world tour. I can't just cleanse the system while I'm giving a world tour. So that is what I guess is one wing of the base. Now off to the final wing of the first floor. In which case, this one isn't particularly impressive. It just goes up and down. But this is going to be the first time I'm show you different layers of the base. Because if I go down this side of the base, we are going to get to somewhere that I've probably spent the most amount of time on my world. This is my zombie XP farm. There is an enchanting table over here, along with a chest filled with books. I got an ender chest and an anvil, and most importantly, an enchanting table with maxed out level 30 enchanting. Then around this side, I have a whole bunch of chests. This is to hold basically all my health potions and the ingredients I need in order to make them. So that way, whenever I have AFK'd here for a while, I can throw a health potion at these guys, and zombies get dealt damage through health potions, because undead suffer the opposite effect of healing and damage potions. So if you were to throw damage, it heals them. Throw health, it hurts them. And the same is true for poison and regeneration, if I remember correctly. Poison gives them regen, and regen gives them poison. So that is what this here is. So that is the zombie farm. I have gates here, so that way zombies can't get in, because I AFK here a ridiculous amount. It's probably my most AFK farm, because I need levels. Then finally, if I drop down, well, before I drop down, I do want to go up a little bit. In which case, if I go up this area, nothing on the second floor. If I go all the way to the third floor, this is my official bedroom. I've used this bedroom probably 3 times ever, but this is the official bedroom, even though I've slept significantly more using either the bed in my inventory or using the bed over by my chest system. But finally, for this side of the base, if I drop down here, this one's a very far drop, we get down into my mine. So this is basically just a large strip mine that I go through and mine at. There's a couple of different things down here, but the only important one is if I go down this side of it, I get to my first ever project, which was part of the mob project. This is a massive dug out area of stone where I dug this as big of an area as I really could in order to figure out how to make a mob farm. This is the basic experimentation area of that. So, as you can see, there is a little weird system going on here. This is me trying to make the first ever mob farm in this base. I could have done it. It was, matter of fact, this whole area is very well set up to put in a mob farm down here. And you might be asking, why did I build the mob farm down here originally? Well, back when this world was first created, Notch released a recent update that said mobs spawn more frequently the lower you get, by like a significant portion, to the point that mobs rarely spawned high up. So there was no reason to build a base high. You had to build one low, so that way you get all the mobs to spawn down here. They would funnel into this area and then go up. So it was very crucial to that, but I then learned that he mostly reverted that, so now I don't need that anymore. So I now just operate under the use of my mob farm up in the sky. So that is what has happened to that. But now, time to get back up to show you the higher levels of my base. Alright, back in the main room, in which case now I can show you what is on the higher levels of this base. It's not actually that interesting, but I'm going to show you regardless, in which case if I come all the way up here, this is the second floor of the base. This one has very little to it, in which case it is simply a massive floor filled with furnaces, and it has my Nether Portals on it. But that's really about it. Technically I also do my iron collection here, but that's not really a big part of it. I also have this little path here, which is basically an access way to nothing. Don't know why I have that here, but that's all that's really here on my second floor. And there's even less when I get to my third one. If I come all the way up to my third floor, this was where I was planning to expand the base and never really built anything here. I can't remember what I was planning on, but I was planning on building something, but the mob farm is right up here, so there's constant sounds of mobs being, like, spawn up there. And also, I'm close enough that mobs actually don't spawn that consistently. So I never really spend time up here, and I couldn't really think of a good purpose to build up here. So that's just kind of what's remained of this area, sadly. It's just, there's not much of a use for it. But if I were to come down through this water stream, my little water pillars that run through my base work as elevators somewhat. So that is what is on that side of the base. But I think it's time to show you the most important one, in which case I guess is probably the fourth level of the base, if I were to guess. Yeah, I think it's fourth level. Is if I go all the way down this side of the base, this is the little tunnel I was talking about that I'll show you later. That was the time to show you what this tunnel is like, in which case you can see this is basically a massive corridor of a bunch of hallways to nothing, except for this one thing, in which case I go through a water stream going on the outside of the base. Ooh, nice and outside, get the fresh air. And I come all the way up here, and you guys will be able to see this is the Iron Farm. So, this area used to be a lot bigger. This whole thing used to be filled with doors, but my villagers were glitching hard from that. So I opened it up, put down just the necessary amount of doors, and let them farm iron through that. So that is what remains of that. And my villagers kind of free walk around here. None of my villagers up here are particularly useful. The only useful one I moved down to the main base. You know that guy, the one with the diamond pickaxes. Yeah, it's that guy. So this is what the Iron Farm is like. But if I were to head down here, we get to another series of corridors. And next up, we have a little drop-down chute. I need to fix these 2 blocks here because I think lightning struck and burned them, which makes me sad. But I can drop down into the Sugarcane Farm, in which case you guys can see what the Sugarcane Farm is like from up here. I wanted to show you guys that here in a second, but I come all the way down here, and we are now above the zombie Pigman farm. Walking above this area, you can basically see there's a bunch of portals. Zombie Pigmen spawn there, they walk into the water stream, and they fall all the way down. And it's basically just a billion Nether Portals. That's really all this area is, so hope you enjoy it. Then, coming all the way down this side, we get to the actual villager breeder, in which case an iron golem is spawned in here. Hopefully, I don't think he's decreasing the rates at all, but that's fascinating. I probably should find a kill system for this guy. How has there been an iron golem that spawned in here? I think I need to check up on the villagers in here. Hopefully, because I tried to design this in such a way that when there's enough doors, the villagers will spawn. Then there's a gap in between here that baby villagers will just try running across, because it's a 1 block space. Baby villagers can run across that. They'll run across and then just fall down, and then go through the system and go into the main actual storage system where I will be trading with them. Then, if I head all the way over here, there's nothing that direction. Instead, this direction, we get to another intersection. Going over here, we see this is going to be the actual intersection above the passive mob farm. So the passive mobs spawn down there. They follow the water streams and go collect down there and be killed in the system. But I turned this into an intersection. So up here is where I can see where it used to be. And if I go this direction, there is a dirt thing I need to get rid of that I'm going to be doing very quickly. This is basically me setting up my beacons very recently, so apparently I just didn't get rid of this one dirt path, but now it's gone, so now it's nice and good. Going down this direction, this is a fast way of accessing this end of the base, which is the tree farm chicken one where the vaults are. This is basically all that it is. It's basically, if I'm on this side of the base, I can get onto the 4th level without having to do some massive runarounds. So that's basically what's going on that end. Nothing really over here. But over here, this is the next level of the base that I've been planning. This is basically my second storage system. Because my first level storage system has completely filled up, so I kind of want to build a new storage system to contain the overflow. So this is basically what storage system up here is for. And also, as you can see, there's a beacon here. This is part of the beacon coverage. It was really hard finding a location in which case I could put a beacon, but this is where I put it. So this is where the beacon will remain. Now, if I come all the way back around this location, this is all that's really on the 4th area. It's basically just to access a couple of villagers. But this is also where all the expansion in my base is happening. So if you see me expanding on the base, it's probably going to be up here on the 4th level, simply because 4th level has some of the best expansion area. Now here is what used to be my fast drop down. It's no longer that fast of a drop down, but I still like to use it every once in a while. In which case, I drop down into the actual Sugarcane Farm. And let me get out the water here. As you can see right here, this is a little path going from to the main base from the Iron Farm. This is the path that the actual iron rides to get all the way over to the main farm. I have no clue where I am standing currently. But what I can do is drop down this path. I'll flow down this little water stream. And I will drop down here, right in the hopper where the sugarcane is, and then just go along this little path here, and drop on down into the main base. So there we are. And now I just want to come over here and hard dump all of that sugarcane that I collected into there, because I don't need it anymore. Now, that probably does it here for the main base, I think. I think I've shown off an adequate amount of it. There's probably a couple of other things that I've missed here, but I think it's about time that I move on to the Nether. There is a lot to show off here in the Nether, so I think I need to do that. I hop on through here, and we are immediately greeted with 2 paths. There is this path direction, this path this direction. I'm going to show this path first, because this is the oldest one, in which case you guys might be able to immediately notice something. There is water behind this. This is a very old thing I did a while back. If I were to get, back when Silk Touch was first added, you could pick up ice, place ice down in the Nether, and break it, and it would put down water. And I decided for my tunnel here, it would be really cool if I were to actually decorate my Nether tunnel with water. So that is what's going on over here, in which case if I run all the way down this direction, we'll get to a Nether Portal. This is the second ever base I made, in which case we'll fill in a little detail that I skipped over on the last base that I left out on purpose. I come over here, and this is my second ever base. As you can see, nice little lava ceiling, and this is basically just a little wooden thing with a rail. This rail is how I get all the way over to my first base. My first base is all the way down that rail for 1,000 blocks. I built this rail in order to complete the On a Rail achievement, and I was using it quite often in order to get over to this base. In which case, what this base primarily offered was this is where I put my new and improved mine at. So if I go all the way down here, you can see this nice little polished tunnel going all the way down into the mine system. I have since really used up this area for its resources, so I don't use it often anymore, but this is what was supposed to be my main mines. Obviously, it stops being a main mines once you kind of mine it out for all that it's worth, so I don't use it anymore. But that is what this little hole here used to be. But If you ever heard me refer to this base as of old, this was referred to primarily as the transit base or beta base. So this is what that is. It doesn't serve much of a purpose anymore, sadly, simply because I have a nether system. But back when I did everything by rails, because I did do almost all my traveling by rails, this I had to go by every single day. So this is what that base was like. I have a tunnel that goes all the way off to another base down here. This doesn't go anywhere. This was planned to be another base down that area and another base down this side. In which case, I'm going to show you the base down this side, but I'm going to use Nether Portals to get down to that area. In which case, just hop through this portal here. And the base that I'm referring to is all the way down this side of the tunnel. As you can see, this tunnel is incomplete. Is not complete, simply because I was getting low on ice and I couldn't complete the tunnel, and now I can't do the trick anymore. So I need to come up with a new design just for this tunnel alone. In which case, if I go on this side, you can see that there is an area I can go down this side. There's another water thing right here, and I have another Nether Portal here. I'm going to be showing off that area here in a second. But first off, I want to show this area, in which case this is Gamma Base, or base number 3. This one has probably undergone the most amount of changes. There's a lot of slimes down here. In which case, my goal here was to dig out this large hole here and fill this hole with lava. That sounds a lot more achievable than it sounds, trust me. In which case, I just wanted to mine out this whole area and then build a large glass dome. As you can see, I was in the process of building that, but haven't got a chance to finish it yet. Probably going to be finishing it up here within a reasonable amount of time, because as you can see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 blocks left on the ring, so I just need to finish that up. But I have this big, grandiose entrance to enter into this little tunnel. It goes around this little side, and we get to this nice little quaint underwater area. In which case, was meant to be an underwater base. This is basically me trying to compound 2 different base ideas together. Once again, I've had like 1,000 ideas for this area, but for some reason I could just never get one of them to stick. So this is kind of what one of them was. So it's basically just this little underwater area. Here's where the second is, in which case another enchanting table, a nice little stack of a bunch of things I can access, along with a storage system. I just kind of bulk drop cobble in here from the digs, so that's kind of just what this area is. It's constantly undergoing ideas and shifts, because I can never figure out quite what I want to do with this area for some reason, so I'm always constantly changing it. But if I were to come all the way up here, you would be able to see what I have done around here. So there were structures built here that I've torn down, that I built new ones and tore those down, but you guys can get a little bit of an idea doing a little look around this area. Once again, this is still in, I believe this is beta terrain, not alpha terrain this time. But if I were to go all the way around here, you can see the one other build in this area all the way over here. I don't know if there's going to be a way for me to get back up here conveniently, so I don't even know if it's worth... might as well show it. But if I were to come all the way down here, this is probably the worst farm in the entire world. This here is my spider farm. So I found a spider spawner not too far away, and I have them spawn down below me through this hole here. You can see the spider spawners right there. They'll spawn down there. We'll go in the water stream, go up this little tunnel here, go all the way up here and fall down this tunnel. The fences here are to make sure they don't climb back up. So I can just sit here and hit them and kill them. And the farm is really bad. I have yet to even get close to a usable amount of XP from this farm. Spiders just are not good for farming at all, really. So I have that farm here, but I don't do anything with it. I just kind of keep it here because it was one of the oldest farms I built in the world. So that is what that farm there is for. But back in the main tunnel, we are going to be going all the way back into the nether so I can show you the 2 areas that are going off of that. In which case, they're not really that important, but I do want to show them at least a little bit. In which case, here is a water stream. This goes all the way down to a lower level of the actual nether. I'm not going to show it because it's really not worth it. It basically just goes down to a lava lake where I can get a bunch of lava buckets and ferry them all the way back to my main world, so that way I can fill up that tunnel with lava. That's the practical end of that for those who are keeping track. Then if I run all the way down here, we get to my Obsidian Farm, in which case I'm only going to show it partially. I go through this portal or that portal, depending on whether I'm just wanting to view it or if I'm wanting to actually get resources from it. Hop through this portal, I get to a very interesting area of my world. As you can see, there's some interesting chunk errors here. There's just a lone chunk here in the middle of this desert that apparently decided to generate. And if I head all the way over here, there is my first ever village in this world. Also, if I head over here, I can show you where all the Nether Portals have been spawning. You can probably begin to see them. Yep, there's all these weird little jaggy areas. Those are just where Nether Portals were spawning. They removed the blocks on the floor, and I had to mine those out. But over here is the first ever village in my world. I'm not going to show it off too much, but this is where I got all the villagers that I'm using in my iron farm and villager breeder. Got those from here, let them breed up a whole bunch. There was only 2 villagers in that whole village, so I got very lucky that I was able to actually get both of them all the way over to my main base. And I had to do that all manually because I just, for some reason, didn't have a nether tunnel system set up. It was only minecarts, so I had to do all of that work in order to get them connected to my minecart system that I don't have anymore, so that I could get them all the way back to my main base. So that is what remains of this area. Alright, back to my nether tunnel. Now I'm going to head right to show another project that I've been having in that world. So as you know, back when I was showing the transit base, there was a tunnel leading somewhere. This is where that tunnel leads. It is, once again, even less refined than the other one. It's just me basically getting through this area, in which case I get to a nether portal. This is going to be taking me to another very old project. This is what I refer to as the warehouse. As you can see, there's the bridge over there getting me all the way here. And here is my massively lopsided house that I was building as a station in order to house where my project would be. Filled with chests. These are just filled with wooden slabs, 4402. Basically just... whenever they announced that they would be changing how wooden slabs would be done, I crafted a whole bunch of wood into these things because I knew, well, all my birch wood to be precise, into these things, so that way, because I knew I wasn't going to be using birch wood for anything. I was like, I'm going to be using oak, so I'm just going to quickly turn all that into oak before I update, in which case I did, and I got a whole bunch of those, so that is now just being held there until I find a use for it. Then, over here, we reach a very large project that has sadly been unfinished for a very long time. This is what I initially planned back in the beta days as the warehouse. This was going to be this massive house that was to hold every conceivable block that could be ever added into the future of Minecraft. I have a whole episode going into depth about if Minecraft were to receive a certain amount of updates and how long my lifespan is, how many blocks are on average are added per update, how often updates occur, and based off of that curve, I was able to determine how big of a warehouse and a storage system I would need to hold off a full future-proof warehouse of every single thing that would be contained in Minecraft's future. Obviously, I was just guessing based off of how updates work. If you want to get the exact math, it's one of the early episodes, so... But I never finished the project, simply because the sheer resources that... Well, the sheer resource intensity, to be precise, of this project was astronomical and was much larger than I could actually sustain during those early days. And also, nowadays... the system is a lot, quote-unquote, easier to do. I would completely redo how I was originally keeping in mind how to do that layout, because initially I was just going to do stacks of chests. But now we have things like hoppers, in which case I could get an auto system to go through this whole warehouse, but even then I would need to consider some stuff there. And I would also need to go back and refer to that episode so I can get all the math correct for it, because I don't have the math anymore, because I have since had other projects that I have used for the Wall of Ances, so that's what remains of that. Alright, back at the Nether Portals again. They're my little nether system, And we are going to get to probably the more important end of this that has been the least decorated. We now have a two-way divide. I am going to go this way because it's the more interesting of the two. But if I go this way, we get to probably one of my favorite projects in this entire world. I absolutely love this project. We are going to be going to the Nether water base, in which case you can see this massive ocean of water all around me. This is back when I had a ton of ice and the glitch was still very prominent, and I was like, I'm going to build this large ocean above the Nether, so that way if I ever want water in my Nether, I can access this massive thing, because it's very apparent it was a glitch. They were going to get it patched, and I was like, well, I'm going to at least use it before they do. And guess what? It got patched, so not particularly surprised. Though it got patched in a way I wasn't expecting, but it got patched nonetheless, so... But if I come all the way down here, we get to probably my favorite base, besides my main base. I'm not even sure if my main base is my favorite over this one, but coming all the way out here, we get to my Nether water base, in which case I want to get a little bit of distance for this. This is the stronghold that I made to be held in the middle of basically a flooded Nether. Initially, this is the first house I built when I made this concept. I don't use it ever because it's not even finished. I basically just use that episode as a way to show off this concept. But what it is a large stronghold off in the middle of the Nether, surrounded by water, with a large amount of expansions going off of it that were used to farm resources that typically I can't farm in the Nether. So I haven't gotten any of those projects off the ground yet, but for example, over here, this used to be a sand farm. This wasn't particularly necessary for water. I just kind of had it because I needed it to be somewhere in the world, and I didn't want it to be in my main base, so I built it here. But if I come along here, we get two important projects. Up here, this is what is my large birch farm. So this is basically, once again, I built a massive birch farm because I didn't even get a ton of wood, but they have since added birch types, so it's not very useful. I haven't actually farmed the farm in a while. And if I head over here, this is my Netherwort Farm. I actually need Netherwort for a lot of things. It's actually quite useful. And if I come around here, the tree farm is a little bit bigger than you might think. If I head all the way up here, we get to the second layer of it, in which case, yeah, it is quite large. Basically, I was needing a ton of wood for my base, and this is where a lot of it came from. So that is where a lot of that wood is from, basically, is this little tree farm. But I don't use it anymore because I don't need birch wood, I need oak wood. So sadly, that base has been, well, that part of the base has been unused for a while. Then we get over to another project that I have yet to update in a while, but I really like it. This is the Hall of Episodes. This is a documentation of every episode I have uploaded, along with the name of it and the date of upload. So if I were to go down the full length of this area, where you can see every episode I've uploaded, it's outdated by about 50 episodes. I think the last time I updated it was a world tour, so I do need to update it again. But as we can see here, episode 1, New Dimension, the Nether, October 30th, 2010, and as we go down this area, we can see that this goes for a while. As you may be able to know, it's 2013 now, so this is this episode's a little old, just a little. So that does need to be updated. I'm just really bad about updating it. Sadly, this space doesn't have too much for me to show. I really, really like working on it, but it's just really hard to justify making another wheat farm or another pumpkin farm when I already have one at the main base. So I really like this base, but it's really hard for me to justify working at it. So sadly, a lot of what this base does gets put to the sidelines, and I really don't like that. So if you guys ever had any ideas for things to build here, I really want to hear them, because man, I want to work at this base. Oh man, I want to work at it, but it's really hard to justify it, and it makes me sad because of it. Oh, man. But coming all the way back up here, we have one other thing here at the Nether water base to show off, which is honestly a very interesting thing that you guys probably don't care about, but I find interesting to this date, is if I come around this end and go all the way back down this tunnel, You may have not noticed, but this tunnel is actually a T-section, and going down that side, and there's a zombie pigment on my way. There's going to be 2 there. But I have pressure plates outlining a little path here, going down this tunnel, and it is going to lead me to a nether portal. This just so happened to work. I built the nether water base well before I built this nether portal, but the nether portal just lined up perfectly. I was astonished when I saw this in the episode. If you go back and watch it, I was absolutely flabbergasted. But, dude, this nether portal is the Stronghold. So I did find the Stronghold before I built this nether portal, but when I built this nether portal, I didn't expect it to line up perfectly to my actual system. I was so happy when I saw that. But if I hop through here and get to this area, we have the end, in which case I've already killed the end dragon. But there is one project I have also in this area. Once again, another project I have a harder time justifying me working on. But if I were to come all the way down this ladder, I'm going to want to run all the way down the full length of this bridge. So this bridge is at the lowest possible level that I can build in the game. So bedrock is typically placed at this level. So if I were to hit F3, you can see I am at 0.5. This is the lowest level in which I can build in the game. And there is no terrain remotely going to be near me when I get to the end of this bridge, because I've just built off into the void. So this is an absolute expanse of nothingness. There is nothing out here, meaning I can build here freely without having to mine, without having to worry about mob spawns, as if I'm building out of slabs entirely. So this is basically a little project I built to be like, I want to be bothered by absolutely nothing. I just want to build out here, and all I have to do, keep in mind, is I don't want Endermen to spawn on a surface. So here is what I have built. This is base Delta, I believe is what I called it. So this is what I have built. It's not very much. It's basically just my void base. There was an enchanting system over here back when, I believe this is back when I needed to do higher level enchanting. Like, you actually needed to have more books. I can't remember exactly, but there's nothing really around here. I think I might have a few enchanted books. Yeah, none. But there's an enchanting table over here. Then there's also a storage system. The storage system doesn't really have much in it. Once again, this space has not that much put into it, but I do have an idea of what I'm going to be doing for this space in the future. I also can come around here and see little Endermen, and they are one-hits, in which case then I will get some XP from them. And if I ever want Ender Pearls, this is basically just an Ender Pearl farm, so that is nice and good. And I can come around here, and you can see that I have a cobblestone generator, and I also have a massive pool. And there's supposed to be a fishing rod here. But basically what this base is supposed to be, it is supposed to be a museum of sorts. This is supposed to be chronologically being able to keep track of every feature in the game and when it was added. So for example, over here we have the actual ability to make an infinite amount of cobble. Over here we have the actual mechanics of fishing, enchanting, we have a mob farm, we have storage, which is going to be housing all the GUI blocks. So this is basically what that base was supposed to be, but I haven't gotten a chance to work on it in a very, very long time. So I kind of want to work on this more in the future, but once again, it's really hard to justify working on projects when I already have a project containing all of this in the main world. But once again, I really like this project. For some reason, I just haven't worked on it as much as I'm wanting. So I might wind up working on that more in the future. I just need to actually sit down and do it. I just haven't done it for some reason. So probably going to do that more, I guess. The problem is, I guess, is just the Ender Pearl farm isn't as efficient as other people's. Once again, tried to just build a basic thing. I didn't want to build anything too extravagant or massive. I just kind of wanted to build a basic thing, and because of that, the rates are hurting a lot, so that's just kind of what's happened there. All the way back at the main portal, once again, if I go all the way over here this time, and I go all the way up here, we can see that this is going to be the actual way to the roof of the Nether. I have a handful of things up here. This is a very dumb system, but honestly, I don't need to do it that way. I just need to get in the minecart, and then left shift to dismount, and then you need to jump and get into that. So that's how it's supposed to do this, but I had a system that it has me go through that without taking any damage if I wanted to. But as you see, there's a Nether Portal up here and a couple of blocks that lead me all the way off to a little pathway. If I go all the way down here, I can head up this little staircase and I will get to the final thing I have to show to you guys in this world tour. In which case, it is sadly not that big of a project, but it's one that exists. I've used it probably like 3 times ever. One of my main bases is significantly better than this one just because I've not put very much care into this one, but one day I hope to make it better. One day. A lot of things in my world that one day I want to make better. Every time I do a world tour, I always am reminded of all the things in my world that I can work on. But if I come up here, this is a zombie Pigman farm, in which case, yep, I have a whole bunch of gold and rotten flesh here. I have a little thing that I can throw all the golden swords or whatnot down there. But basically, just a zombie Pigman falls down here, lands on a trapdoor, dies, and I pick up its resources. And that's really about it. It's not that special to zombie Pigman farm. The only special thing about it is the thing I can't really show you guys is that the zombie Pigman farm is built like a standard mob farm. Oh, okay, a whole bunch just dropped down there. It's built like a standard mob farm in the fact that it uses water, because, once again, I have water in my nether. So this is actually the highest water in my entire world, built all the way up at build limit. So I have about 4 or so blocks built all the way up there. So that is a little something that I have in this world. I rarely use it, though. I did want to show that to you guys because I did build it, so I kind of did want to show it to you. But that's all I have here at the roof of the nether. I kind of want to do more up here. It's kind of, I've gone through the effort of, oh, there's a gold nugget. I've gone through the effort of building a system to get up here, and I've built one thing up here, so I kind of want to build more, but I already have one nether project I don't do enough with, so it's questionable how much I want to do another, but either way, now I want to hop through this portal. This is the final portal to show you guys. I hop all the way through here, and I'm off in the wilderness. Not really, as you can see, my base is right over there. I kind of wanted to tease you guys a little bit there, but either way, guys, that's probably going to be doing it for the end of today's world tour. Give you guys a little update because I'm sure several of you guys have not been watching since the beginning, so you probably are not aware of every project that I've worked on, because I have had quite a few. So hopefully that was a good little catch-up on for each of you guys, so you guys can get an idea of what I'm working on, and any projects that you guys want to see me work on, because, once again, as you can see, this video has been well over an hour. So there's a lot to consume here. So I do hope you guys enjoyed. And once again, tell me what you want to work on. It makes me so happy to see any comments of people saying anything about this world. Every single comment really does make me really happy. So I'm so happy to see if any of you guys have anything you want to see me work on. Or even if it's just a small little thing to basically just tell me that you like the world or something. Because I've been working on this world for a very long time now, and it really makes me happy to see anyone who really likes it. So, with that said, that's probably going to be doing it for today's episode. I do hope you guys enjoyed. That's going to be doing it for today's episode. See you guys in the next one. So long, and see ya. Bye!